So I want to present to you today Boku's annual results for 2021. And to be honest, it's been a pretty good year. Revenues, EBITDA, profit and cash are all growing pretty strongly. Our core business of direct carrier billing has continued its monotonous steady growth, but now complemented by even faster growth coming from our local payment methods business. And by local payment methods, I'm principally talking about e-wallets and real-time payment methods. Now, Boku is an organization that is able to deliver this steady growth because we have relationships with pretty much all of the world's largest digital merchants. And that provides us with sticky, highly recurring revenue streams, which we've been able to eventuate in the results that we've presented today. Moving to the numbers, what we have been able to report are group revenues up to $69.2 million. That's up 23%. And that in its turn generated EBITDA at the group level of $20 million, up 31%. And for the first time, a net profit before tax of $4.4 million. Cash balances ended the year at about $62.4 million. And the figure we prefer to use, in fact, which is the monthly average cash balance, which smooths out the payments to and from merchants, ended the year with an average in December of $50.8 million. After the year ended, we were able to sell the identity business to Twilio, and that was a sale for $32.3 million, and we received cash balances there of 26.2, which further boosted our cash pile. Turning specifically to the payments division, revenues there up 21% to $62.1 million, and the EBITDA was up to $22.9 million, obviously greater than at the group level because the identity business was loss-making. Now, the funny thing is that those figures would be even better if it hadn't been for some adverse currency movements within the year. We estimate that revenues and EBITDA would both be about $2.3 million higher. Now, the non-financial indicators here that we publish are around total payment volume. That's the actual value of all the payments that go through the system. And in 2021, that grew by 18% to $8.2 billion. And that would have been even higher, as I say, once again, if it hadn't been for the adverse currency movements, it would have taken us up as high as 360 million more. So it would have topped 8.5 billion. The figure perhaps we're most proud of is that of the monthly active users. And across the whole of our business, in December, 32.3 million people made at least one transaction within the month. Within that, the fastest growing portion is for the local payment methods, for e-wallets and real-time payments, real-time banking payments. And that ended the year at 1.1 billion and has continued to grow actually even after the period end. So as I speak to you now, we have the latest figures from February, that's grown to exceed 1.4 million monthly active users of these new payment methods. And that represents actually 10 times growth in the number of monthly active users for the local payment method business. So I want to give a couple of updates now, and the first of them just concerns Boku Identity. After the period closed, we disposed of the division to Twilio for $32.3 million. We're taking the money and we're using it, first of all, to pay down debt, and then secondly, to try to accelerate our movement into local payment methods. And we'll invest some of the money into the Mr. payments network and expanding it. And broadly speaking, we would hope to be able to accelerate our efforts in that area using the proceeds that we've had from Boku Identity. In addition, I want to say a few words about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Boku has actually relatively limited exposure to Russia and Ukraine. And in fact, we have no merchants who are domiciled in either of those countries, nor in Belarus. We operate in 91 countries overall, but we did have some merchants who were connected through us to Russian carriers. And we've terminated all of the settlement model connections that we have there. Now, the impact in 2021 of merchants connected to Russian carriers amounted to about 1% of revenues. And we were, in fact, intending to expand in that domain in 2022. So the maximum revenue impact in 22 is probably around sort of 2%, not a material amount. I think the thing I'd like to say, though, is that perhaps my primary thoughts are with our Ukrainian employees. I mean, they have families back home, and that's obviously going to be a matter which is on their minds, and it's certainly on my mind too. And as a company, we've made substantial donations to Ukrainian humanitarian relief, and we would intend to continue to do so as the sort of conflict continues. One final point. Sometimes we get the question about whether there's any disruption to our Estonian operations, and I can reassure investors that there isn't. Our Estonian operations continue unaffected by the conflict. Just talk a bit about strategy. One of the things that's quite surprising if you talk to people in the West is that they wouldn't realize that most things online today are not bought with cards. They're actually bought with the most popular payment method is a mobile wallet. According to the best data that we've got, in 2021, that was about 49% of everything that was bought online was with a mobile wallet. And that's forecast to increase to 53% by 2025. And it's not easy to be able to reach all the mobile wallets because they're all different in every country. In fact, you could have 4 or 5 wallets in any country. And so if you're a merchant and you're trying to reach those customers who are trying to pay for things using mobile wallets, then you really need to come to a specialist like us. We will take the different technical connections, the business of being able to get hold of the money, of being able to provide great levels of integration so you can do subscriptions and other services, and we make that really simple for the world's largest merchants. And it's a problem worth solving. It's a big problem. It's a multi-trillion-dollar problem. When we look at it, if you take that global e-commerce is about a $12 trillion industry, and about half of that could be available to local payment methods, well, maybe there's $6 trillion worth of spending that's available to Boku. Now, clearly, we're not going to get it all, but this big pond in which we now swim is a big pond which is full of opportunity. And we've got a great offering around it. Our MIST, our mobile first payment network, now spans 91 countries. And an increasing part of that is not connections through to phone companies, although that's still a really important part of our business. An increasing part of it is to other local payment methods like e-wallets and real-time banking. If you take the 7 billion accounts within Boku's system, about 4 billion of those are phone numbers, and about 3 billion of those are coming from the wallets or real-time payment networks of the world. Now, we've had the luck to be able to work with many of the world's largest merchants, the 2 leading app stores, the 2 leading music streaming services, the leading video streaming organizations, key players in digital advertising or in SaaS software, right through the gaming sector. The 2 leading console providers all work with Boku. And increasingly, they're not just working with us for direct carrier billing, they're working with us also on these local payment methods. And that's the fastest growing part of our business. So why do they choose us? Partly they choose us because our network is wider, so we can reach more wallets in more countries than our competitors. Partly they do it because we have a wider reach of services, so we can work on things that help in actively acquiring new customers and helping to retain them. They find that they get higher approval rates or faster transaction processing, or even something as fundamental as being able to support subscriptions without the user having to interface. These are things that are not simple to deliver with local payment methods. And Boku, by doing it well, is able to recruit the world's largest companies into our wheelhouse for local payment methods and give us a chance at that big pond, the $6 trillion opportunity in which we are now embarked. So it's worth reflecting a little bit about some of the growth taking place within our business. So already our volumes have grown. We've talked about that, up by 18%. In fact, a new statistic that I talked about is that in 2021, we actually ended the year with more than 2 million daily active users, which was a new high, up 13% from where we'd been before. Within that, the area that I'm most pleased about, though, is the astonishing levels of growth that we're getting in the level of local payment methods, albeit from a relatively small base. So the non-carrier billing part of our business has grown extraordinarily fast. I can now give you the information right up until the end of February of 2022. 1.4 million monthly active users, 10 times the level that was around a year ago. Extraordinary growth. And those users are coming from right across the spectrum. They come from a digital advertising business. They come from a streaming video. They come from streaming music. They come from games and console providers. They come increasingly from people who come to Boku who are never used our direct carrier billing business at all before, but are now actually starting to use us for wallets and real-time payments alone. And this is a significant fact, to actually have people coming to us who have never just been cross-sold or upsold, but using Boku specifically, coming to us because of the quality of our local payment method business. So 2021 has been a great year. It's been one in which we have focused our business onto payments, resulting ultimately, after the period close, in the disposal of Boku Identity for $32.3 million. It's been a year in which our revenues have grown by 23% to $69.2 million. It's been a year in which our EBITDA has grown by 31% to $20 million, and we actually made a maiden profit of $4.4 million. All of the lights were flashing green across all of our payment metrics. And that's what we expect to continue in 2022. Continued growth in direct carrier billing, continuing the really explosive growth that's taking place in the new payment methods of e-wallets and real-time payments. There will be, at the margin, some limited impact from Russia and Ukraine, but the resources that we're generating now allow us to invest in our mobile-first network in 2022 to deliver higher levels of growth and give us an opportunity to exploit the opportunities in the big pond. Thank you.